in our lifetime, where are we, where do we stand when it comes to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fara'id of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where are we in that sense? And this is for all of us to ask ourselves in our hearts, where do we stand in this regard? Well, where am I when it comes to what Allah has commanded me to perform and to do, to conduct? Where do I stand with that regard? But a wali of Allah is that individual who fulfills all the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the do's and the don'ts. Yeah, the do's and the don'ts. Yani he does everything that he is supposed to do, and he protects himself from everything that he's not supposed to do. Okay, and then finally accomplishing and attaining the qurb of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Then you have number 3. A wali is that individual, and we touched upon this in the narrations last week of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thirdly, a wali is that individual who loves people for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ke liye wo logon se mohabbat rakhta. And we talked about this in the hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ said that these people, they are those who they don't love one another because they are related. Yani they don't love somebody because they are from the same brotherhood, or they have a rishta with them, or they have a relationship with them. No. Nor do they love these people, nor do they love somebody so that that individual may benefit them in any way. That individual may benefit them when it comes to wealth. He may benefit them when it comes to dunya. He may benefit him in any, whatever way you can think of. No, he does not love for the purpose of benefit, but he loves others solely to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Solely to keep the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with him. And then you had the verse that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam thereafter says that أَلَا إِنَّ أَوْلِيَاءَ اللَّهِ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala, who is known as one of the leaders of the Mufassirin, one of the direct students of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He had a title which was Al-Bahr, meaning the ocean, due to the depth of his knowledge and the depth of his understanding. Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas, he says regarding this, that the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are those that when the entire creation will be fearful, when the entire creation will be filled with grief and sorrow, they will have no fear and they will have no sorrow. They will have no fear whatsoever and they will have no sorrow. Continuing further, you have then this elite class that we've talked about over the course of the previous Jummah and today as well. This class of awliya Allah. Then you have rankings amongst the awliya Allah. And then when it comes to this class of the awliya, you have one individual who is given the title Sultan al-Awliya. This individual is given the title of the leader of the awliya kamili. Not only that, another title of his, you have Muhyiddin. Muhyiddin, the one who revived the religion. The one who revived the religion. And some of you might not understand what that truly means. What does it mean to revive the deen? The deen is the deen. The deen was granted by us, by the Prophet ﷺ. What does it mean to give it life or revive it? And the Prophet ﷺ himself in the narration mentioned this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every 100 years or so sends to the ummah or sends to the dunya an individual who revives the deen for the ummah. Meaning that every 100 years somebody is chosen specifically by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they are sent to do what duty? To revive the religion, to give life to the religion once again. What the religion doesn't change. The religion is the same. Islam is Islam just like it was in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The people have changed. And the people changed. Every 100 years you get another generation onwards. And another generation further away from that golden era of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And with different people, different kinds of people, you have these people who are losing their strength of their iman and the strength of their faith. And then this mujaddid comes along and he revives the deen for the people. And this personality who I want to talk about and mention, he not only is he given the title of Sultan al-Awliya, but he's also given the title Muhyiddin, the one who revived the religion. When it was, when people were losing strength in their iman, he came along and he revived the deen for them. So you have Muhyiddin. Then you have another title of his, Qutb Rabbani. Qutb Rabbani, the pole of the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning the leader of the friends of Allah, similar to Sultan al-Awliya. And then you have the title Najib al-Tarafain. And what this means is that from both sides, meaning from his paternal side and from his maternal side, he is from the lineage of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes, from both sides. And how beautiful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed it to be that from his paternal side, he was in relation to one of the two Hassanain Karimain, one of the two grandsons of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And from the maternal side, he was from the other part of the blessed princes of Jannah, Hassanain Karimain. And you have this story about his parents, which I will finish up on. And it's something that we can take a lesson in today's society as well, and today's scenarios, how we can as parents learn from this. There was a man, one day he was very hungry, and he was on the edge of a river, and in his extreme hunger, he saw an apple. And as he takes this apple in his hand, in his extreme hunger, he takes a bite from the apple, and he eats the apple. Some moments pass by, and he thinks to himself, that apple was not mine. That apple was not mine to eat. Luckily, there was nobody else in sight. There was no other individual in the vicinity. But he takes an apple and he says that, that was not mine to eat. That wasn't my apple. So he looks above the stream and he sees an inclined walk. So he starts to walk along where he thinks the apple may have come from. So as he's walking up, he finally finds a garden. And in this garden there are trees, apple trees. So he thinks to himself that this is where the apple must have come from. There's no other place. So he enters into the garden and he finds the owner of the garden. He says to the owner of the garden, I was down the stream, down the hill, and I think one of your apples must have fallen into the river and made its way down to where I was. And in my extreme state of hunger, I took a bite and I ate the apple. And I've come here to ask you for your forgiveness. I've come here to ask you for your forgiveness, because that apple was not mine to eat and I ate it anyway. So the owner of the garden, when he sees this young man come and ask for forgiveness for eating an apple which fell into the river and made its way down the stream, he realizes, and this was the man of foresight as well, so he realizes that this person is not an ordinary individual. This person, he is a diamond amongst rocks and stones. So he says, so you seek forgiveness from me, I will forgive you. He says, I will forgive you, but you must fulfill a condition. You must fulfill a shart. एक शर्त है, वो शर्त पूरी कर लो और फिर माफी मिल जाएगी. So he says, okay, मकसूद, असल मकसूद माफी, तलब करना है. And what the condition is, I don't know, but tell me what the condition is. So he says, you must work for me for 12 years. You must work for me for 12 years. And after you work for me and serve me for 12 years, then at the end, I will give you your forgiveness that you've come for. I will forgive you. So he says, thinks to himself, 12 years is a long time, but I want forgiveness. That's my ultimate aim and objective is forgiveness. So no problem. I will work for you and serve you for 12 years. So 12 saal khidmat karte rahe. He served him and worked in the garden for 12 years. All for what? That one apple that he ate that wasn't his to eat. So anyway, he works for 12 years and works hard for 12 years for him. 12 years pass by. And after the 12 years pass by, he thinks to himself, finally, 12 years is a long time. Finally, I will now attain my forgiveness. Finally, maafi mil jayegi. And then the owner of the garden comes to him and he says that I have another condition. I have another condition. He says that I have a daughter. She is deaf and she is blind and she cannot speak. And I want you to marry my daughter. And if you marry my daughter, then you will have your forgiveness that you came 12 years ago. And again, the individual is now thinking, I served this man for 12 years, thinking that now he'll finally forgive me, and now he's put another condition before me, another hurdle before me to my ultimate goal and aim, which is to attain forgiveness for that one apple which was not mine to eat. So he said, anyhow, I want forgiveness. That apple was not mine to eat. No problem. No problem. I will marry your daughter. So the nikah takes place, and finally he says to him, go into that particular room over there. Your newly wedded wife is waiting for you. So as he enters into the room, he's shocked. He's amazed. And he thinks that he has walked into a wrong place or the wrong room, because he was told that his wife was deaf, dumb, and she was blind. She cannot speak. And when he walked in, he found a woman who could see, who could hear, and she was absolutely fine. So he rushes back to the owner of the garden. He says, where is my wife? That's the wrong room. He says, no, that is your wife there. He says, when I said she is blind, that she cannot see, what I meant by that was that her eyes have never gazed upon a ghayr mahram. When I said she was blind, what that means was all her life, her eyes have never fixed upon a ghayr mahram. When I said she is deaf, what I meant by that was that all her life, she's never heard the voice of a ghayr mahram. When I said she cannot speak, he said all her life, she has never raised her voice to a ghayr mahram. Now, subhanAllah, look at this now. This is a marriage, this is a mother and a father. The father is one who ate an apple in sheer hunger that was not his to eat. And he served somebody for 12 years for the purpose of attaining his forgiveness, that it was not my apple, it was your apple. I ate it, and I don't want to take haram down into my stomach. And so a father who cares about what he takes into his body in accordance to the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to such an extent. And then you have a mother of this household who is so protected all her life, not seeing, not hearing the voice of, and not speaking to a ghayr mahram all her life, right? Such protection in the mother and such protection in the father, in accordance to the ahkam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Allah grants those two awlad, that awlad becomes Sultan al-Awliya, that awlad becomes Qutb Rabbani, that awlad becomes the one who is pure from both sides. Al-Ghawth, that awlad from Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani al-Hasni wal-Hussein. And this is the importance of parenthood. This is my role. This is your role. Right? We as parents, this is our duty now, our responsibility. You think what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants you awlad, grants you the blessing of awlad, and you're not going to be tested. You're not going to be questioned. No, every single thing that Allah grants you or me, we are going to be questioned about it. Yeah. The Prophet ﷺ said, "What? Kullukum ra'i." You're all shepherds. You're all shepherds. وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. And you're all going to be questioned about your flock, about your responsibilities. And the Prophet ﷺ goes further here in this narration, where he gives examples and he says that the father is a shepherd and he is going to be questioned about his responsibilities as a father. The mother of the household, she's going to be questioned about her responsibilities as the mother of the household. And even to the point that the slave, the ghulam, he is going to be questioned on how he fulfilled his duties. Yes, we all work here, we all work, And most of us, we get a pay at the end of the month, a salary, a wage. Now we have to ask ourselves, first me and then all of us, that salary that I am attaining, that wage that I am getting, am I fulfilling the rights that my employee or my employer rather has over me in terms of the contract? Am I fulfilling it to the best of my capabilities? Or am I wasting my time just passing time and passing the hours and then just picking up my pay packet? This is responsibility, right? It doesn't just come to the mother and the father. The Prophet ﷺ said that even the slave, when he is owned by his master, and the master tells him, do this and do that, and look after this property and look after that property, even the slave will be questioned, how did you look after your master's property? How did you look after your malik's property? To that extent. So we as mothers and fathers, of course, by qiyas awla, we are going to be questioned about our children. We are going to be questioned about our duties to our sons and daughters. How did we protect them? How did we, guide them to the path of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? These are all things that we have to think about. We have to question ourselves. We have to do muhasabah of ourselves. I mean, it all goes back to that famous qawl of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. What does he say? Hasibu anfusakum qabla an tuhasabu. Take account of yourselves before you're taken account of. Because if you don't take account of yourself, you don't know what you're doing wrong. Yes? If you don't do hisab of yourself, you don't know. I'll tell you, give you an example of business, right? In business, if somebody doesn't do hisab at the end of the week or the end of the month, how do they know if their hard work is being paid off or not? How do they know if what they are running around for, if that's paying off or not? Right? So hisab is very, very important. Just like business, we have to do hisab of ourselves, and when it comes to our deen, if you don't do hisab of yourself at the end of the day, दिन में 5 नमाजें थी और इन 5 नमाजों में कितनी पढ़ी कितनी कज़ा की हैं, हम ये सवाल अपने आप को पूछते ही नहीं. And if you're not going to question yourselves, what makes you think you're going to then become 5 times namazi? Right? These are questions that we have to ask ourselves at the end of the day. 5 नमाजें थी आज अल्लाह ताला ने जिंदगी दी, सांस दी, 5 नमाजें थी, 5 में मैंने कितनी पढ़ी? Right? At the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he had a question for us. End of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted me responsibilities. How many of my responsibilities did I do badaqatan? Or how many responsibilities did I fulfill properly to the best of my ability? And if we don't do hisab of ourselves, then we're just walking blind to our death. And when we're walking blind to our death, and then death creeps up on us, then we regret. Oh, wasted all my life. Wasted all my life, Allah sent me back. There's no going back, there's no redos of dunya. That's it, one chance, and that's what we get. 9 lives, 8 lives, 7, that's your one life. You only live once, and you only die once. And then once that death comes, you have no redos and reruns at dunya and life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give me the ability to act upon what I've said first. And all of us, وآخر دعوايا الحمدلله رب العالمين. अज़ान हो गई है, आप खड़े हो जाए, सफेद दुरुस्त कर लें एक दफा और सुनते हैं.